All right, welcome to Bet the Edge. I'm Jay Croucher here with Drew Dinsick. We are recording on a Wednesday afternoon. We're going to talk today about the Thursday NBA slate, including Warriors-Pistons, which includes the favorite for most improved player, Cade Cunningham. We'll talk about that awards market, and then we'll close the show with Notre Dame, Penn State, and Ohio State, Texas in the College Football Playoff Semifinals. But let's start off, Drew, with the NBA Thursday slate. Is there a particular bet that jumps out to you on the board?
Well, let's kind of talk about game by game betting right now in general and what are the factors that matter the most in the month of January. There are kind of two things that are going on right now. One is players are making individual pushes to secure all-star spots, and then that propagates into all NBA, which matters for the sake of all of their fortunes and contracts in the future. The other thing that's going on is we are dealing with a compressed schedule. The NBA Cup pushed a lot of rest into the middle of December, which has forced games to be kind of stacked at the end of December and into the early part of January. So you have a lot of fatigued teams right now. And while that doesn't always mean that they won't win or won't cover, it definitely has impacted defensive effort for teams that already struggle defensively. You're seeing their defense drop even more, and then for teams that struggle shooting, their shooting has fallen off even more aggressively. So it's kind of one of the things where there's no clear signal that I can tell you that a fatigued team is going to score less or score more than they normally do. It's much more of a, if you have a weakness, it tends to get exaggerated, in my opinion, with these fatigued spots. And then the other factor is when this is not rocket science. It's pretty straightforward to know when you look at the schedule when a team is on a back-to-back, and teams plan for that by load managing their players and not playing them on the second night of a back-to-back, particularly if it's a game that's of little or no consequence, or if it's a star that they are especially trying to keep fresh. And so, you can, in general, get a little bit ahead of market moves of player surprise absences if you have a general idea of how fatigued a team is. And, this is just a general soft situational angle that, in my opinion, you have to incorporate this time of year, or risk, kind of looking at a number that doesn't make sense on paper, betting into it, and then finding out, the reason why in the world would this be, a +6? Oh, Jokic isn't playing. That's why, right? Like those types of situations happen pretty regularly this time of year, and so and then of course to make matters even more complicated, players are returning from injury. And then, some players, in case of, say, like the Pelicans, have been missing their key players for so much of the season. They are a total guessing game as to how you come up with a fair price for them. So, these are sort of the macro angles that are informing a lot of my decision making in terms of what to bet, when, and why. And we get to kind of one of the more interesting matchups, in my opinion, of the Thursday slate: Golden State at the Detroit Pistons. You mentioned it. Cade Cunningham has come on this year. He's having, his sort of breakout season that was long awaited. Some of that, in my opinion, is just because his supporting cast is coming along with him. He has a big man threat in Duren to do some nice pick and roll game with, and he has a nice, he's had a good support from the likes of Jaden Ivey as far as someone else who can create. When either he's on the bench or when he needs a blow, and also just a general better shooting at the way that the team is comprised. And so for these reasons, Detroit has moved into a rating for me where I would pretty comfortably put them, in the top 8 in the Eastern Conference. However, this is about as difficult of spot as they can get all season. They are playing at Brooklyn on Wednesday. This is a game they should win, but Brooklyn, of course, is a try-hard team that is going to, force them to play a full 4 quarters, and then they turn around and they host the Golden State Warriors on Thursday in what is their most fatigued spot of the entire month of January. So Detroit is in a little bit of a tight spot here, combined with the fact that Jaden Ivey is unavailable due to injury, and I think that this is kind of the good kind of buy low, if there ever is one, on the Warriors. The Warriors were heavily supported, myself included, hosting the Miami Heat on Tuesday. They were awful, and there is a lot of kind of certainly questions swirling in the back of my head about the coaching and Kerr and the way that this roster has been constructed and sort of the regression of some of the young players. But I'm going to go ahead and stick my neck out here and buy low on the Warriors. I think laying the points with them on the road, as long as you're only laying as many as 5, is worth the shot. And part of my thinking is that this is one of the games where you could see Detroit on, with the fatigue kind of affecting player performance and or just player availability being the deciding factor.
Yeah. We'll talk about Cade and his chances at most improved player a bit later, but Cade to me is one of the strangest players in the league where I needed the Pistons to beat the Magic the other night in the game that Ivy got hurt and broke his leg. And watching that game, it was so just, he's a fascinating player, Cade, because he doesn't really have any athleticism. Like, there's no real explosion in his game. Like, he can do anything against Jalen Suggs and KCP, and, not a lot of players do, but like, he is terrible finishing at the rim. He shoots 55% at the rim, which I think is, it kind of speaks to his lack of explosion and athleticism. He just kind of slithers to his spot, and he's a very cerebral player. He's an awesome passer, and this year, he's shooting the lights out from mid-range. Like, he is shooting 46% on his middies, and he's shooting 38% from 3. And that's kind of propping up his overall shooting profile to the point where, still, even with that, like, he's 54.9% true shooting. That is not particularly good. I think the league average is closer 57, 58%. So I think that with Cade, they're a much better team with him, and he's been able to orchestrate this offense. And I think a large part of that is because of his passing, because of the improvements in his shooting. But do you see him as kind of a heliocentric offensive player going forward that's going to continue on this kind of path, or is it kind of just hot shooting to this point, you think?
I think he's a heliocentric player for a team that's perennially in the 7 to 8 range in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
He's limited, surely. But there's enough to like about, I guess maybe the thing that I like the most really about the Pistons is just his synergy with Duren. Like, those two players fit together like hand in glove. Absolutely love it. I think Duren is going to continue to get better. And ultimately, if the Pistons succeed to the tune of getting beyond the play-in in the Eastern Conference, it's because he becomes like all NBA big. And I don't know that that's likely, but it's possible. And I think that ultimately the coaching has been impressive, in my opinion. And a ton of that is just relative. Last year was so bad and such a disaster that any type of just kind of floor raising coach was a solid improvement for the franchise. And the fact that you're getting try hard effort night in, night out through the middle portion of the season is really helping these guys. They are running hot right now. They've won 7 of their last 8, but again, like, if you're getting it done with effort and you're starting to wane a bit, right? Like the game against the Trailblazers was, I would qualify that as a somewhat of a lucky win. I don't know what's going to happen at the Nets on tonight, obviously, but this is, I think really the game against the Warriors is going to be a pretty shrewd test. You don't really have elite defense to match up with Steph Curry. If Steph Curry is having a hot shooting night, then I think Golden State can get this one home.
Okay, before we move off the slate, other one I want to talk about, the Lakers are 8.5-point favorites home to the Hornets. The Lakers right now are, they're kind of winning and their seeding and record is fine, but I think this is a house of cards at the moment where with D'Angelo Russell gone, who is no great shakes himself or anything, and maybe Dorian Finney-Smith will be more useful for the team, but like, they've got 2 players on the team who can dribble at the moment between Austin Reeves and LeBron, and that is it. And they looked completely off kilter against the Mavs in the national TV game on Tuesday night. Do you think are the Lakers even an average team right now?
So I'm the wrong person to ask, Jay. I can't square or defend my rating on the Lakers at all. Like, the numbers to me say that this should be a good team, but it does not pass the eye test. No way, no how. think that there was I guess, yeah, they've lost 2 in a row. They're 6-4. They're hanging on to the 6th spot right now, although the Clippers probably flip them in the next couple of days. Timberwolves could flip them too. They could very well find themselves kind of entrenched in sort of that 8-9 malaise pretty easily, in my opinion. And I think a lot of what we've seen success-wise is just a little bit of regression to the good for LeBron, if that's something that makes sense. Like, he was playing so poorly through so much of the early portion of this season that it was really dragging the team down, and he's playing a little bit closer to what was expected. I still I have a massive downgrade on him year over year as far as the player rating goes, but he's still, for me at least, a top 25 player in the NBA. But there's a big difference between being top 5 and top 30. And I think really that's what I'm struggling to come up with a fair price for his impact. And if he ultimately wanes because of his age, which was entirely understandable, then I think the Lakers come down from 6 and maybe even kind of fall out, because I'll be honest with you, the way that the Kings and the Suns are playing, I would be surprised if they don't threaten to push someone out of the play-in mix who's currently in it. And I'm having trouble finding the team that's going to fall out. It could be the Lakers, it could be the Warriors. I mean, I'm going to be done with the Warriors if they don't beat the Pistons, if we're being honest. But the Timberwolves should rise. The Spurs are good enough with Wemby, in his breakout, to be in that play-in mix. And I think the Suns and the Kings are coming. So, if you wanted to bet the Lakers, it's one way. Play-in, no. It's a pretty decent price.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of the Lakers. I have a big bet on the Kings to win the Pacific Division, which has already gone through an odyssey and is just exhausting to even look at the bet. It is now back in positive value after becoming poison again. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think any team in that division is like materially better than the Kings, including the Lakers. I think the Kings are just better than the Lakers, but we'll see how it all unfolds. All right, Super Wildcard Weekend on Sunday night. Catch rookie superstar Jaden Daniels and the Commanders as they travel south for a date with Baker Mayfield and the Bucks. Coverage of the win or go home battle begins at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on NBC and Peacock. Okay, most improved player, Cade Cunningham, shifted into favorite, plus 175. We'll talk about him. Tyler Hero, scuffling a little bit at the moment, plus 350. Twitter darling, Jalen Johnson is 4-1. Evan Mobley, 10-1. Norm Powell, 11-1. Victor Wembanyama, I don't think is going to win this award. He's 14-1, despite, it's the same thing every year. It's like Jokic's MVP year. First one, he probably should have won most improved player. I just don't think people are going to look at Wemby like that, but be interested for your thoughts. Dyson Daniels, 18-1. Jalen Williams, 20-1. Do you think there's a bet to be made in the market, Drew?
I think there are a couple. I think that kind of, again, stepping back, looking in macro space, to me, most improved player it's somewhat akin to comeback player for NFL, if you're new to this, in that I don't know that everybody treats it the same. I don't know that everybody really understands how to evaluate it. Some people look at it like, well, what's the biggest surprise? Some people look at it specifically at statistically. Well, whose statistics have gone, improved the most on a per game basis. And some people literally look at, well, who made their first All-Star game? And that player was the most improved. And because of the kind of, sort of squishy nature of the definition of this one, it's a tough but fun handicap. And I think if we stick with half the block will treat this still as first-time All-Star, then Cade Cunningham has to be the guy. I do think Cade Cunningham will make the All-Star team. I know he's only 6th right now among guards in the East in terms of voting, but the way the Pistons, I think he'll make it, right? And that combined with just the general increase we've seen from him statistically, combined with the fact that his numbers should go up in the absence of Jaden Ivey, means that he should be the guy that should be at the top of this board. If you want to then swing for the fences, that's where this gets interesting to me. I know that 10-1 isn't really swinging for the fences, but I think Evan Mobley is live to not just go to the All-Star game as a big, but potentially be in discussions for All NBA this year. His defensive impact for this team and his specific, some of his on-off numbers for the Cavs have been like really, really, really impressive. The defensive efficiency for the Cavaliers when he is on the court compared to off is 8 points better. And that is this. He is primarily the guy that is expected to elevate the defense with a bunch of smaller players who aren't very good at defense at all. And eye test says it is specifically his kind of command of rim protection in those moments that really keeps the bench mob for the Cavs for being a viable, kind of unit to keep them in games and or to separate them from kind of the middling competition that they faced. And so Mobley is absolutely in the discussion, in my opinion. I think that this probably turns into a two-man race between Cade and Mobley in the later portion of the season, or at least from All-Star game to the close. The one guy I want your opinion on, who I think is also worth a bet because it's an obscene price. And again, this is not my opinion of who has improved. This is literally just who do I think will get consideration. I think LaMelo Ball is going to get consideration. He's flirting with 30 points a game. This is a meaningful increase. And I know that the last 2 seasons, he just hasn't played very much basketball. So and he has made an all-star game in his history, but 100-1. And, I'm not expecting Hornets team success. But his usage, his true shooting is not fallen off appreciably with an impossibly increase in usage. And I think there's a decent chance that he's going to threaten the scoring title here, if not just score 30 points per game, and he may get some consideration. So 100-1 seems a bit long, even though, again, I wouldn't even put him on the also considered for All NBA, but there are a lot of voters who just look at the numbers, and his raw numbers are not non-trivial.
Yeah, LaMelo is a weird one because I think that it's going to be seen as a little bit empty calories because the Hornets are just so dire. And what are they now? The Hornets are 8-27, and LaMelo, the efficiency's gone down as well. If he gets really hot and he ends the season averaging 32 points per game, the good thing with LaMelo, at least in terms of long shots, is that he does have differentiators where he's going to have, perhaps, of all the candidates, the biggest jump in terms of points per game. I just think that the team, his standing combined, his existing pedigree combined with the team, he's already been an all-star. He was Rookie of the Year, and the team is 8-27. So I think it's uphill for LaMelo, but at least he does have that superlative of the big points per game increase. I think Mobley is kind of the most interesting guy in the market because I think on merit, Mobley is clearly the best candidate. Where you look at how he has risen in his advanced numbers. I
agree.
He is Mobley. Evan Mobley is a fringe MVP candidate on merit after being, I think after last season, the Ringer ranked Evan Mobley the 52nd best player in basketball. And right now, in terms of players who have not been hurt for a big stretch of the season, Evan Mobley is 5th in EPM. He's been the best player on a team that's on pace to win 70 games right now after, not being considered. Evan Mobley averaged 15 points per game last year, and now he is, I think he's been the best player on the Cavs. And the good thing with Mobley, and we'll get to the bad things about his case, but the good thing is that there's very easy things to point to that he's improved. It doesn't show up in the season-long numbers, but he's been launching threes lately. The past couple of weeks, he's taking 5 threes a game after, last year that just wasn't really part of his game at all. Last year, he's taking 1 3 a game last year. He keeps taking 5 a game, and he's making 42% of them. He's shooting 78% on his free throws after being a 69% shooter career coming into the season. And also, you just watch the games. In terms of his touches per game, he touches the ball the same amount that Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell do. This is a completely new offense. It's a completely new player. And just watch him too, his dribble moves. He's taking contested mid-range fadeaways and making them. he just looks completely different. The thing is that in terms of what resonates for this award, usually he doesn't have the basic counting stat increases. He has some efficiency lift, but it's not massive. The thing with Mobley, though, is that he played these 2 games in the past month or so where one, he sprained his ankle after like a quarter and he scored 4 points. So that's deflating his averages. He had another game where he only played like 18 minutes because they beat the Pelicans or something by 50 points or whatever. If you take those 2 games out, he's been averaging north of 20 a game for like 2 months now. And if that continues to hold, and the other thing too with Mobley is that he's doing all this and the team's been entirely healthy. Like these guys haven't missed time at all. Like there's been no usage vacuum from Mitchell or Garland or even Allen going down for any stretch, really. And so if you bake in just on average, those guys are going to miss more time. Mobley, just as a young, improving player who is, evolving within the season, I do think that there is scope that he averages, over 20 points per game. He's an all-NBA player, first-time All-Star. It's just how much will his case resonate with voters if there's going to be no increase in assists per game or rebounds per game. It's really just, it's going to be like, I think like a 4.5 points per game increase combined with the shooting improvements that you can point to on the team that may be the story of the season. So how much do you think that would actually resonate with the voter pool?
A lot. I didn't mention it, and I should have when I brought up LaMelo Ball. He's already missed 11 games this year. Like he could be, just out of contention entirely, even if he is the scoring title winner. But Mobley has only missed 2. Even when he has gotten hurt, he's been a quick bounce back. That type of resiliency, I think, is meaningful as far as him just being kind of given the credit. Because there's always that always comes into play around awards voting is people just bringing up like, wow, did you see how many minutes this guy played? He was an Iron Man. Like he was available all the time and was super effective. And I think that it hasn't happened yet for some reason where people are saying the same thing you're saying. And I'm thinking, which is Evan Mobley's the most important player for the Cavs. Like we haven't gotten there. But I do think we will. And the other thing I can point out, because yes, he did get a 3-point shot for Christmas since 23rd of December. He has been 5, 6, 4, 4, 6, 6 like that. That's coaching has obviously changed his usage and really is pushing him to do that, and it's working. I don't know that there's an adaptable way for defenses to kind of change his ability to get off those threes, so he's going to keep getting them off. What I do see potential for as I look across his raw stats, he's not getting a very favorable whistle. This guy is not getting like any type of opportunities to really get free points at the line. If they can kind of bring that out of the getting what is he averaging 4 6 sorry yeah he's only averaging something like 6 free throw attempts a game. Like if they can get that to 10 between now and the end of the season, which is not reasonable for a guy of his with his game around the rim, then all of a sudden his points total is going to eclipse 20, I think.
No, he's I think on merit, he's the best candidate. We'll see how much it resonates. Just quickly before we move off the award, the 2 guys, the favorites. Hero, the thing with Hero is that like Butler being out, Hero's usage with Butler off the court, or at least his scoring, doesn't actually go up that much. And I think a big part of that is that Hero's shot quality goes substantially down with Butler off the court. Which I think is an issue, and defenses are just keying in on Hero because he's the only guy who can really do anything on offense on that team. And his points per game has dropped now to 23.6. He was at 20.8 last year. The team's median outcome was like 41, 42 wins. So I think Hero could still turn it around, and we'll see what happens with the roster there. But I think that he is trending in the wrong direction. On Cade, I think Cade is the most likely player to win the award, but I think that the current price is poison. I think that the reason why he's most likely to win is that his usage goes up from like 28% to 34% with Jaden Ivey off the court. The Pistons have banked this 18 and 18 start. If they're like 36 and 46 and they're in the play-in and Cade is getting 34% usage and he's a first-time All-Star, then I think you'll have a pretty strong conventional kind of star leap kind of case. for people who think that Cade's not like a candidate because he was the number 1 overall pick and he was already too good because he averaged 22 points per game last year. Like, how is this any different from Ja Morant? Ja Morant was the number 2 overall pick. Ja Morant was coming off a playoff series where he averaged 30 points per game against the number 1 seeded Jazz. Morant's pedigree was much higher than Cade, and Morant won. Morant missed 25 games the year that he won, and he won in a pretty strong field of contenders with DeJounte Murray and Jordan Poole, Darius Garland, stronger candidates than they have this year. So Cade's imperfect. I wouldn't want to back him at price. I'd want to be against him at his current price, but I do think that, he can absolutely win the award. Whereas some people look at it, it's like, how he can't win? He's the number 1 overall pick. It's like, well, like linear, and also it's not like super linear improvement because this is like year 4 for Cade. Year 3 for Cade, the team won 14 games. Like the narrative will be that he is kind of, making basketball relevant in Detroit for the first time since Chauncey Billups got traded. So I think he will have a lot of narrative ammunition, and I think he's a perfectly worthy candidate. It's just that it's not a super high ceiling case. And so I think that it can be beaten.
Yeah, I think that's well said, and I think the other kind of X factor is availability. Like, can he handle this increased usage without picking up an injury? We don't know that.
Yep, indeed. The other guy I would just monitor in this market is just seeing what Norm Powell's usage is that Kawhi is back. I know Kawhi's stepping away from the team for a little bit, but when he comes back, like the first game Kawhi came back, Norm Powell's points prop in the market was like 19.5, and he's averaging almost 24 a game. So if that is going to sustain, his usage has dropped naturally with Kawhi back, albeit very small sample, but I don't think Norm can win if Kawhi is going to be healthy the whole season, and Norm is like 20 points per game and like the third guy on the Clippers the rest of the way. Now, if Harden or Kawhi gets hurt, then it gets a lot more interesting for Norm. But he is one to monitor. Very unconventional case, but potentially a persuasive one. All right, America's top high school football prospects face off in the annual All-American Bowl presented by America's Navy. Watch the nation's best this Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern on NBC and Peacock.
As you all know by now, we've teamed up with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for our listeners each week. If you haven't signed up to BetMGM yet, use bonus code BETEDGE, and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code BETEDGE. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your first bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code BETEDGE when you sign up. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona, 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts, 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa, 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code BETEDGE and get your $1,500 first bet offer today.
Okay, let's close out with the college football semifinals. If you want a deeper handicap of the semifinal games, check out the college football takeover episode with Brad Thomas, Vaughn Dalzell, and Eric Froton on Friday of last week. But the two matchups, Notre Dame, 1.5-point favorites against Penn State, and Ohio State, -6 against Texas. Drew, do you have any bets on these games?
I'm riding Notre Dame futures all the way to the finish line here. Markets are still not respecting us, Jay. They don't respect us. We should be 3-point favorites against Penn State, I think. Maybe more. I think the defense of Notre Dame is being underappreciated. The way that they've come on toward the end of the season, I think, has been extremely impressive. I love the way they're coordinated. Marcus Freeman is a genius. The offense has some wrinkles that I also don't think that the world is fully appreciating and embracing. Briley is an absolute athlete. some of the plays he made against that Georgia defense were incredible on the ground. And I think that they haven't really shown us what they intend to do through the air. But I saw him play a lot of football at Duke, and he has an arm. And I think there are still some bags in their, bag of tricks. I think the offensive coordinator for Notre Dame, I have a ton of respect for him. I think he did a phenomenal job last year and has gotten even better this year with Notre Dame, even with the more limited cast. I don't know that these are future NFL players by any stretch of the imagination, but I think Notre Dame's going to come through here against Penn State. And I mean, I get it. Ohio State did some impressive things recently, Jay, but can we pump the brakes a little here? Like, this is a very, very aggressive adjustment to the good for the Buckeyes. I get it, but I also think 6 points against Texas is wild. That is way high. This is, people, I think people are pricing this as the best defense in the country. Certainly the best defense left. Okay. They have not necessarily faced a test as tough as what Texas is bringing to the table, in my opinion. And, they got the better of Oregon because Oregon was wildly rusty. And, Chip Kelly, for whatever reason, maybe had a little bit of an axe to grind, but coordinated his best game for the Buckeyes in that one. But I think this Ohio State-Texas matchup is very close, much closer than the market is expecting at 6. And I think that whoever comes through this more significant battle with a day less rest is in a little bit of a spot of bother against a Golden Domers team that is coming on.
Okay. How do you reconcile the Ohio State performance against Michigan with the notion that they are now an unstoppable truck? Do you think that was just throw the records out rivalry game that was just weird and it's a one-off game and it's not super meaningful? Or do you think that it speaks to cracks under the surface that are going to resurface at the worst possible time for the Buckeyes?
Jay, they're just kids. I can't reconcile it at all. And you can point to what Michigan did against Alabama, I guess, and say that maybe Michigan was better than people realized. They came together late in the season, too late to really make any kind of a push for anything. But I'm not going to be fooled by this Ohio State team. They could, as good as they looked against Oregon, they could look that bad against Texas. And as good as they have been in the playoffs so far, I'm not convinced that Ryan Day is a guy that I want to go to war with as far as decision-making in a tight game. He's played with a pretty positive game state now in 2 of these playoff games. If this is a close one and he has to be a little bit more, kind of analytically minded, then, we'll see if he passes the test.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I need Ohio State to win this game. I've been screwed by Ryan Day many a time in the past. So hopefully that painful streak can end, but we'll see. I don't really have a strong opinion either way. I've just found myself in this position, so hopefully for me, the Buckeyes can pull.
The market has given you one heck of an off ramp. You can decide to take it now or in the final, because the way that they're being rated compared to the rest of these teams, my goodness gracious.
Yeah, I don't really care enough to. I'm just gonna let it go.
Well, you can shoot for the middle, certainly, with Texas plus 6. I mean, that feels. Yeah. I don't know. I fell out of my chair when I saw this number. I was like, I guess half of Texas got hurt or has the flu, and I don't know about it. I'm not a college football handicapper. I don't know the players well enough to say one way or the other who matters or what or why. But just in the blind, I would have thought this would have been a pick 'em kind of a game.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Interesting to see how it unfolds. Many split opinions on OSU. All right. We are done. Don't forget to check out NBCsports.com for more information to help you with your wagers. Thanks for those watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, don't forget to rate and subscribe. Also, a reminder to find all your favorite NBC Sports shows on Amazon Music. Just head to amazon.com/NBC Sports. From myself and Drew, we'll see you soon.